I try to make inspirational posts, and I try to, encourage people to not try to battle each other, because even now people are getting mad at other people for not going to protests.
Right.
And stuff like that. And it's just like, hey, everybody's not a frontline person. Like, everybody's not meant to be downtown in harm's way of rubber bullets and tear gas. That's not everybody. Everybody can't do that.
Right.
So it's just like trying to.
Welcome back to Bliss Talk. We took a 30-minute break, but we back to it. It's Thursday, and I was double booked today because I took me a little bit of time off to regroup, recollect myself. I was out at the protests last week, and it was a very emotional experience, and so I really needed to. My best friend told me that I had to take some time out to regroup and find some peace or some light with all the darkness that's going on. So with that being said, I have another special guest tonight. She goes by Brita Boo, or just Brita, or she goes by Wild Perfection. She's into theater. She's a movie actress, author, and poet. She's on Amazon Prime. You can find her in Two Wrongs, and you can find her on the Poetry Cafe. So without further ado, I want to bring her on and pick her brain up. Hey, Danny. Hey, baby. I haven't seen you in forever. Oh my gosh.
Hi.
Look at you. Look at you.
How you doing?
I'm doing great now. You lit up my world, girl.
Oh, thank you. You're so nice.
What's going on? How are you, queen?
I'm good. Trying to do as best as I can with everything that's going on,
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot.
It is a lot going on. And I'm glad I just spoke about how I had to take 2 days off of Bliss Talk because we do this every night at 7 p.m. But I took those 2 days off and kind of regrouped and recollected myself. And it's still a grieving process, but I feel like I'm in a better headspace. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I had time to deal with what actions I need to take in order to move forward. What about you?
It's been really heavy. It's hard to pay. It's hard to even get on social media. And as an artist, you try to stay relevant. So you try to, stay in contact with everybody. And you're on social media and you're posting and you're reposting and you're trying to look at what everybody's doing. But sometimes it's too much. And it's like I don't want to stay off of social media because I don't want to miss what's happening.
Right.
But then you get on social media and something's happening every hour, and it's just like, even, after George, there's other people getting killed and people being, brutalized by the police still. I just saw a video today of police on somebody else's neck, and I'm just like, what is like, this is just always something. So, and I don't think we really realize how traumatic these things are for us to watch.
Right.
We think it doesn't affect us because we see it all the time, but it takes its toll on you when you're constantly seeing people who look like you killed in the ways that they are. So, I've been trying to find a healthy balance and try to pay attention. I still, of course, try to get on and check my messages and all that good stuff, but I try to make inspirational posts, and I try to, encourage people to not try to battle each other, because even now people are getting mad at other people for not going to protests, and stuff like that. And it's just like, hey, everybody's not a frontline person. Like, everybody's not meant to be downtown in harm's way of rubber bullets and tear gas. That's not everybody. Everybody can't do that.
Right.
So it's just like trying to get people to not be mad at each other, that too. And, it's just a lot. It's a lot all the time. But I've been, telling people to send me funny stuff every day and all that good stuff. So, yeah.
I'm glad that you said that everybody is not meant to be on the front lines, because I feel like in the Bliss talks that I've had so far, we have communicated that, there's people have their own personalities, their own demeanors, their own ways of handling situations.
Right.
And it's a very traumatic time right now. So it's okay if people need time to regroup. It's okay if people need time to strategize and think about their next steps in order to support the movement.
Yeah.
I wanted to say hello to our folks that joined into the Bliss Talk tonight. I see Kingdom of Queen. Hey, I definitely take mental breaks. Yes, it's okay to take mental breaks. It's also okay to stay in tune as well. Not stay in tune, but be in tune with what's going on, and educate ourselves. Make sure we're listening to people that we trust. If somebody that we trust is forwarding this information, take a look at that information. Take some time out to be a part of the conversation,
And sign those petitions and share all the information, especially the information, about the free lawyers helping get people out of jail and stuff, because they are putting us in there by the dozens and the hundreds. I think I saw there was 10,000 people that have been arrested so far. So we need all that help. So if you're not going to be on the front line, at least share information so people can, get some access. So yeah,
I always say put your eggs in all of the baskets. Petition, show up to the voting polls. If you want to protest. If you feel like your best way of supporting the movement right now is just posting things on your Instagram, that's okay too.
Yeah,
need all of those baskets full in order to make change.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna get into the interview. And do you go by Brita Boo or just Brita?
So most people just call me Brita.
Okay.
My real name is Brita. But most people just call me Brita.
Well, Brita, I'm Carmen Bliss. I am an organizer, director of OOP GSO. I host these Bliss Talks where I get to speak with people in the community, and I love building, learning, aspiring, collaborating, and sharing keys with these people who are steady and grinding. I love picking their brains because I feel I can learn a lot from other people's experiences. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
We're going to have a discussion tonight. I'm going to ask you about 5 questions. So let's get started with that. Let our love grow between the concrete of our faults. You know who wrote that?
Yeah. Yes.
Absolutely loved that line.
Thank you.
I want you to expand on that and let me know where you were at when you wrote that.
That line.
Mm-hmm.
It's the rose that grew between the concrete. Mm-hmm. The book that a lot of us have read. But I wanted to expand on that, and it's like, where is the rose growing between? And it's like our faults, it's our bad, everything that's bad about us, that rose is still coming through. And that's where I was, and that's actually ironically, that poem is the only love poem that I've ever written.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's very difficult for me to write love poems. So that poem was a big deal for me at the time, and it's so crazy because my friend, I don't know if you know Desana Hanu, but he gets on me for overwriting, because I will write a poem and I would keep going and going and going and going and going, and I wanted to keep going with that poem, but I had to find a place to stop. But it's really difficult writing love poems for me. But I wanted, that poem was very important to me, because I do pray for what I want in a partner. I hope that whoever my partner is praying for me. And I just wanted to expand on that idea of, what if we actually got what we prayed for? What if I've really been praying for you this whole time? You've really been praying for me this whole time, and we really came together and we felt like this was spiritual and God sent, and how beautiful and how magical, is that. Can
I share with you what I thought about that line?
Yeah, go ahead.
We think about our experiences coming into a relationship, and each individual that's a part of the union, we all have demons. And if we let roses grow from those faults, let something beautiful come out of it. Help me work on these demons, and I'll help you work on yours.
Yeah.
And sometimes that means that you may not have all the answers, but you do know how to show up. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I have a line of that poem. And this, I think this is actually a part of, because there's actually 3 stanzas to that poem. In the video that you saw, I did the last 2 stanzas. But the first stanza is, you told me you prayed for me. So it's all the things that he prayed for that I am. And a part of that stanza, it says, are you afraid of the dark? Because sometimes we will go there with nothing but a few matches to find pieces of us that got left behind. And it's just like, are you afraid to go in those uncomfortable places with me? Are you afraid to go in the darkness? Are you afraid to see my ugly and to show me your ugly? Because we're going to have to learn to navigate that. And sometimes we're not going to have the tools that we need, but we can find the tools that we need, and we can make that work if we really try, hard to do that. So that's like really along the lines, of your thinking with that line.
I think that willpower is something that cannot be dismissed or passed away or looked over, because when 2 people have willpower to make something work, then that's exactly what you get. You're going to get some magic from that.
Absolutely.
You're going to get some magic. I want to move on to our next question. And first of all, I want to thank all of the people that have joined in and tuned into Bliss Talk tonight. We had people coming in and out. We now have 4 followers in here. I'm speaking with Brita, sorry.
Okay.
A movie actress, author, and poet. Amazon Prime, she's up there. You can find her in 2 Wrongs and in the Poetry Cafe. We just talked about letting love grow between the concrete of our faults, helping each other, finding those matches, going into the dark with someone when you're a part of a union. The next thing I would like to ask you is, can you talk about viewing yourself as poetry, loving and appreciating yourself, and pushing through that?
Seeing myself as poetry and loving myself and pushing myself through that. I think that sometimes, and I actually have a line about this in the poem, that I write to hope that my life will imitate my art. And sometimes you write things into existence as a poet and an author. And I see myself as a constant piece of artwork. And what I would try to do is make sure that I express myself. I'll make sure that I write the things that I desire, the things that my heart wants, and the things that I long for and yearn for. I try to write about the things that make me uncomfortable, the things that cry. I can't even tell you how many times I'm writing and I'm boo-hooing, like my whole heart out, or crying on stage, or whatever. And I think that everybody is a poem. Everybody is their own story. Everybody has their own journey, and it's all beautiful, and it's a roller coaster. It's a roller coaster of experiences that we transfer to words, that we try to perform on stage to get to connect to people. But I've had to really, I know in my journey of self-love and self-worth, it's good for me to be able to write as a poet, because I get to see my own growth. I get to see the spaces that I was hurting, the spaces that I've healed, even performing old poems and being like, wow, like, you know, and that poem might resonate with somebody else, and I might not be attached to this poem, but somebody else is attached to it, you know, and I can be like, you know what, I know what you feel like. I've been there. I know exactly what you feel like. You know what I mean? And you know, really like getting a chance to figure yourself out. Everybody says that poetry is therapy. Therapy for yourself. And it really is, because you get to dissect yourself and be transparent with people and be vulnerable, and that's the spaces where you heal and where you learn to love yourself more. I think there's something beautiful about that type of self-awareness that poets have, to be able to put themselves out there and put their hearts and experiences on their sleeve for the entire world to see. And I think that that's something that helps us to be more self-aware, which for me allowed me to be able to really love myself better.
So I have to share with you why I chose that question to ask you tonight. There was a post that you said I was going to write some poetry here, but I realized that I was the poetry. And then I saw you looking so beautiful in that picture.
Thank you.
You know what? You sure doggone is the poetry. I'm looking at it. But it gave me the opportunity to look at myself like, am I poetry too?
Yeah, absolutely. You are, honey. You are a whole 10 stanzas, honey. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. A metaphor.
And then I got to ask myself that question, and then I decided, yes, well, gosh, yes, I am poetry.
Yes, you are. You're a living, breathing work of art. Absolutely.
Yeah, from my experiences, my hardships, me pushing through, you know, even my imperfections, you know, it's a story behind all of it. And if people really knew, they would probably say, oh, that's poetry.
Right. That testimony is something serious.
Yes, it is. All right. So that was fun to be giddy with you about us being poetry. Talk about opening the portal for love and connection and understanding love languages. Because there was a poem that you had, and you were talking about your dad, and one of the points that you made was about the communication not being able to express, or there was some type of blockage there, and you talked about love language too. And I want to know how we can teach our next generation to open that portal.
So I'm trying to think, what was the line? So the line was, he speaks to me in the language of love, and I can't understand what he's saying because my father never taught me to conjugate properly. That's that line. And so I think that for me, so there is a such thing as, and I think that, this is scientifically proven, of generational trauma and depression and anxiety and trauma, and that feeling of helplessness and hopelessness has been passed down through generations. And one thing that I like about millennials is that we actively are trying to make it healthy to fix ourselves. And I love how, you know, we get into conversations about therapy and how it's okay to go to therapy, especially for Black people, because we like to pray everything away, you know. So I love how we're trying to normalize things like, you know, therapy, or having to be on a medication like an antidepressant, or, you know, whatever it is that you need to feel your best, how we're trying to normalize that so that we can undo the pain that we have been passing down, so that we can figure out a better way to love ourselves and to love each other. And that's what is going to allow for us to be better people, and to be better parents. For those of us who have or will have kids, and honestly, it takes a whole village. So the whole village needs a healing, you know, just to raise just to raise a child, or all of them. So, so we really need to learn ourselves, really need to learn how to be better human beings. We need to learn more compassion, more understanding, to not be so judgmental, to understand that everybody, like, you know, like you, like me, has our own, we're all poems, we have our own story, and that everybody's not supposed to be the same poem.
Yeah.
Everybody's not supposed to have the same story, not to hold people to unrealistic standards of being, and to accept people the way they are.
Yeah.
And then we can be more self-aware, find out what our love languages are, find out how to speak to each other, how to love each other, how to give, you know, each other what we need. And hopefully, you know, to be able to grow from that as a community.
Can we, the reason why I put love language in there is because from a personal experience, my stepdad, he's been the only man that I know that I can just depend on. Since I can depend on him. And so his love language is taking care of his family. But he's not a good communicator, you know. So I appreciate him for looking out and taking care and making sure that he's like, he makes sure my car is taken care of. Like, if I need like to be picked up somewhere because my battery died, oh, he's there, he's on call and standby. But we've never had like a really intimate like connection like that. You know?
Yeah, and that's just like the poem.
Yeah, it's never been super intimate, and so my love language is literally communicating with you, acts of service as well. But I understand that his love language is different, and I think that it might have something to do with, it might have like a male thing, you know?
Yeah.
I don't understand why they don't really like to talk.
Yeah.
Or say I love you.
Yeah.
Or say I love you to him, he literally be like, yeah, okay.
And I think, and with that, like, it comes, because my father's the same way. So my father's love language is gifts, right? And like you said, making sure that we're taken care of. If something's wrong with my car, if I need help moving, if I need, you know, if there's something serious, he's gonna be there. But he's not gonna dote on me. He's not gonna bring me flowers just because. He's not gonna be like, hey baby, I love you. Oh baby, your haircut is so beautiful. It looks great. You know, he's not that father. But I had to realize he was emotionally unavailable. You know, he wasn't able to give me that type of intimacy that I really needed with a male figure to know how to operate when it comes to other men. So, you know, I had to learn all of that. And I think that one thing that we have to work on as a community, with our men, is redefining masculinity and what that means, because it doesn't mean, you know, not talk or not be emotional. God, you know, God forbid men think, oh, they're not supposed to be emotional. Yeah, you are. Yes, you are. You still have an emotional responsibility, and need to have emotional intelligence when you're having intimacy with anybody, your family, your wife, your kids. Like, you have to be aware, and you have to be able to freely express those emotions. So I think that we really need to, as a community, like, redefine masculinity and what that means, and make it okay for men to express themselves and to have a space to express themselves. Because sometimes women will say, oh, you're too emotional, you're doing what girls do, you're acting like a girl. And it's just like, honey, don't do that. Don't do that to him, because then he's not going to want to open up to you and be in that vulnerable state. Right. So, you know, I think that that's one thing we really do have to do as a community, is redefine what that means.
I think it's something to say about when a father tells his princess that she's beautiful every day. The first man that thought I was ever beautiful was a man that I look up to. And the next person, or the next guy that tells me I'm beautiful, has to align themselves with some of the, what's the word I'm looking for?
Values
that the first man in my life, you know, who told me I was beautiful, who told me I was worth it, you know. And so I think that we are I believe we can raise a generation of men where we can let them know how important that is.
Yeah. how important that affirmation is,
Yes.
which is one of my love languages. Words of affirmation, you know, I needed that. And I think that if I would have gotten that, if I would have gotten, you know, that type of emotional availability from my father, I wouldn't have gotten half of the situations I got into, you know. Guilty as charged. So, you know, but a father's role in their life with their daughter and their son, to be honest, is really, really important in how they view love, in, you know, in their lives, period.
Absolutely. I have one more question for you. We talked about today growing flowers through the concrete of our faults. We talked about viewing ourselves as poetry. That was one of my favorite parts of the conversation. We talked about opening the portal and connection for love and understanding the love languages. The next thing I would like to pick your brain about is this concept or this discussion. I don't know who you think I am, but I'm not her. When you said that, girl, I said, hey. That only I know who you think I am, but I'm not her. Expand on that and say it for the people in the back.
You know, so I think that people, one thing that I like about social media is that it allows for us to stay connected to each other. And it allows for us to get to know people that we might not otherwise be able to get to know just in our day-to-day lives, right? Mm-hmm. But the bad thing about social media is that because you only post what you want to post, mm-hmm. that's all that people have to go on, you know, to go mm-hmm. on about you.
Right.
And so they make these assumptions about, you know, who they think you are. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, you know, I don't know who you think I am, but I'm not her. And I honestly meant that, like, you know, in dating, because I think that sometimes, especially being a poet that also does erotic poetry, mm-hmm. People tend to make assumptions that I'm like this sexual, like I'm promiscuous or something, mm-hmm. or, you know, that they can talk to me any kind of way. You know, and that doesn't happen often, but it happens. And it's just like, yo, I don't know who you think I am.
Right.
But obviously you're not paying attention enough. I'm not that girl right. that you can just, you know, come in my inbox and think that I'm her. Or, you know, there's guys who try to change me. You know, they don't want me to post some of the pictures that I post on the internet, you know, and things like that. And it's just like, stop. I'm not, whatever girl you're trying to make me be, you're trying to force me to be, I'm not that girl. Right. Like, get to know me. Don't think that I'm somebody. Don't think, you know, make these assumptions about who you think I am. Actually get to know me. Right. So that you can say for sure who I am. Absolutely. But, you know, don't, you know, if you're not close to me, whatever assumption you got is wrong.
I have to make a comment on that because I felt like that was so true. That when I heard you say it, I was like, yes, because my aura or my presentation is very humble. Mm-hmm. And I also had someone tell me before that when I do these conversations, for example, to be confident, and little do they know, like, I am. Yeah. Oh, yes, I am. I don't know what I thought I was, but yeah, I'm not that person. I am, right. Even though I have a presentation of humble, because I feel like I don't have to state every time that I'm a queen, I'm a boss, I'm a leader. I don't have to say that to you. I just have to show it to you. You know, mm-hmm. You mm-hmm. pick up on my grace. And so presentation is, you know, just like you said, people see what they want to see on your Instagram mm-hmm. and things of that nature, but just doesn't know your experiences and your growth.
Yeah, and I try as hard as possible. Like, and I thank you for reading, you know, my post, because obviously you did some research. But, you know, everybody doesn't take the time to read like my captions and stuff, because mm-hmm. I try to make it a point to mm-hmm. give people pieces of who I am in my captions. Mm-hmm. And for anybody who follows me on Facebook, pretty much if not every day, every other day, or a few times a week, I'll get into these really long rants about an experience that I had and about who I am and my perspective on things. And it's gotten to the point where people are just like, yo, I look at your page just to see what you post.
Yeah.
Because I know it's going to be something like great that I need to see. You know what I mean? And it's just like, I try to be inspirational, and I try to be, what do you call it? The sacrifice. The person that's going to tell you about my experiences,
Right.
So that you know that you're not alone, so that I've been through the same thing, so that there is a way you're going to get over. You're not going to be in this space, all the time, because I wasn't,
Right.
So I try to put this stuff on my social media so that people can see it and everything, and even with my risque, I guess you could call it, photos, even though I love them, I think they're great. I try to put captions underneath those too about who I really am, so that people can see me as multidimensional and not as one person.
Absolutely.
But people just, people's attention span is short. Sometimes they don't care. They just want to see the picture and keep going,
Also,
But
to add to that, most of the time when people try to tell you who you are, they're projecting their own insecurities to you.
Honey.
When somebody tries to tell you who their images of you, they're projecting. And so be careful with that, because if you let that energy get into your consciousness, then you do become that thing that people are trying to say.
Absolutely.
Know who you are, and then also don't be afraid to speak up if you feel uncomfortable with somebody projecting on you. Like, hey, you're projecting right now.
Yeah, I do that
those
too.
Those are not my feelings. Those are your feelings.
I do all of that.
And let's be clear about that. Those are your feelings.
Yeah. Your feelings about me, not my feelings about myself.
Right.
So, two different things.
Absolutely. Miss Brita, this has been, come on now. We laughed. We talked about serious stuff. This is what I needed for the week.
Yeah.
We've been going through so much.
I didn't get that.
I wanted to say,
try again?
My Siri is going off right here. I'm not talking to you, Siri. I'm talking to Brita. But thank you guys for joining us tonight on Bliss Talk. We had Brita on here, and she's into theater, a movie actress, author, and poet. And you can find her in Two Wrongs and the Poetry Cafe. I'll go by the name of Karmic Bliss. And I have 30-minute conversations every day at 7 p.m. with some of the people that have been grinding in their community, so they know a little something. So I pick their brains, and we gain a lot of information from everybody that we have on the show. If you would like to check out other Bliss Talks, I have them right there in my IGTV. They're only 30 minutes or so it's just a quick little inspirational pickup that you can listen into on wherever you go. And also subscribe to the Bliss Talk channel. You can also find us on blisstalkshow.life. I want to take maybe one or two questions before I let Brita go. And while you guys are typing, Brita is going to let us know where we can find her and support her.
Yes. So you can find me on Instagram. Well, on Instagram, of course, my name's up here, Wild Perfection the Poet. I'm also on Facebook. If you want to follow, I guess, me personally, Debrita Wild Perfection Chanel, and Debrita is Debrita. Wild Perfection Chanel. That's my personal, I guess, Facebook. But I also have an entertainment page that is Wild Perfection. But I think if you put the Facebook, what is it, the website or hyperlink and do like the / Wild Perfection the Poet, it should come up that way too. So that's where I'm at right now. If I have a book, if anybody's interested in purchasing my book, please, speak to me and let me know. I got a new shipment a couple weeks ago, so I'm stocked right now. But I also, of course, am on Amazon Prime in a movie called Two Wrongs, which is an independent film. We're actually filming the sequel in a couple months. and the Poetry Cafe, which is done by Josephus in Greensboro. And that's, I mean, I'm on episode 8, but all the episodes are phenomenal. And I encourage everybody to go watch that, because I don't see a lot of poetry stuff on Amazon Prime or any streaming platform, to be honest. So I encourage people to go watch it, all that good stuff, and feel free to talk to me about anything. I'm always here for a deep discussion about something, and talking about lives and our experiences and all that good stuff. So yeah,
absolutely. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. I really appreciate this.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Before you go to sleep tonight, make sure to subscribe to the Bliss Talk, because your conversation will be up there shortly. Okay?
Absolutely.
Yes. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Y'all have a wonderful evening. Enjoy your weekend as well if we don't see you.
Yes. Bye.
Bye, guys.